production data, all the process data, eventually gets stored in the server. But then there are what we call DCMs, or data collection modules. That these are the industrial PCs that live on the production floor that capture the data from each production line, from each machine. So basically that's what we're doing. We're capturing data. But a big part of what we do also is to categorize data. To give you facilities for scheduling jobs, and give you facilities for categorizing your downtimes, for entering your scrap, for production counting, and for also things like monitoring process variables, monitoring different temperatures, pressures, timers on each station, on each machine in your factory. So what I'm going to kind of go through first in the first part of the demo here, the overview, is what would be the operator interface screens, the part of the system that is usually visible right out on the production floor, right on the production line, where the actual machine operators would interface to PlantStar. But it'll give you a good feel of the data we collect and what kind of things you can do with our system. I actually have up now live on the screen. This is actually a live system of another customer of ours. I'm going to step through a little bit. What you have on the screen here is basically several blocks, and each block represents a machine on their production floor. In the case of this company, they have 21 machines, all represented by a block. You notice that the blocks are different colors, and they may change colors as we look at that. That's because the colors give you a real-time machine status of, since we're watching machines, as they cycle and run, we know if they go down, or if they have a process exception, or if they're running slow or fast. And you can see those color states over here on the right, that basically give you a quick view of what your production floor is doing, how your machines are running. So basically drilling down from there, we go down to the individual machine level, and this kind of goes into what the operator would see. If I pick a machine in particular here, there we go. Sorry, it's being a little slow for me. So there's several screens here, and this is what would be on a touch screen or on some sort of device right on your production floor. And you'll notice this, there are several screens. There's buttons across the bottom here that take you from all the different screens. They're kind of broken up between what the operator has to do. Things like changing the jobs they'll do on this job summary page, or entering their downtime they would do on the down page, or calling for assists, entering rejects, looking at process parameters. It's kind of broken up into separate operator machines, or operator screens, excuse me. But what you see here basically is an overview of what's going on right now. Here's your current job on this machine, and all its relative information: the job, the work order number, the product, the material, whatever you're making, a material. If you use that, this particular customer doesn't track material with our system, but you could. So a certain type of item or a material that you're feeding into the line. Tool, and in the case of a plastics, it might be a mold, or it can be some other tool, an assembly tool, or a die, or a punch, or something that you're using to do the process you're doing. Some comment information, you can put in just different basically comments about describing the part or describing what you're making. Date required by, so that's part of the scheduling feature. Some free text fields that are kind of up to you to populate. And then everything else is basically kind of centered around the current operating parameters. How many hours to go, how many pieces left on the order, how many pieces required for the order. And we're a real-time system, so those data collection modules tie directly into the machines, so they collect data as it happens. So this data you see on the screen will continually update. You'll see your pieces left go down, and in case of this particular customer, they're an overrun. They're way past what they should have made. If I come over and look at a different machine, there you'll see here that there were 24,000 pieces required. So far, they've made 15,844. And if we watch this for a while, you'll see that pieces left continue to change. Your standard and average cycles, what you should be running versus the actual cycle time that you are running right now. A comparison of the two. Parts per minute, OEE percentage is right there. We calculate that real time with every cycle as well. So this is happening as the machine runs, along with your part counts down here, your gross, net, and rejects for the shift and job as you work through the job. So one of the things, this information here, how this information gets into PlantStar can either be through a manual entry or through an ERP interface. So down the road, if you do start working with an ERP, we can import job data directly from ERP into PlantStar. So you don't necessarily have to create all these jobs manually and enter all this information manually. You can import it from ERP. This is where the operator would change jobs to. For this particular machine right now, there is not a queued job, but what there would be here is 2, 3, 4, however many jobs you schedule up. Jumping over to the other software here, in the job schedule board, you may have, for instance, for one machine, you may have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 jobs scheduled sequentially on that machine. This would allow the operator to change. So when they finished one job, they could go to the next. And when they finished that job, they could go to the next, so on and so forth. If you come over to the down page, this is where these are configurable by you. You can configure 20 down reasons to be whatever you want. When machines go down, the operator can come here and basically categorize what it's down for. If you don't tell PlantStar anything, then all the time goes under unauthorized. Because we're watching cycles come and go, we know when your machines are down. This just gives you a place to categorize that downtime into different categories, so you can act upon it. Continuous improvement. Know where your losses in time are coming from. Very simple process to come in here and just click a button. It's under unauthorized now.
Sorry for interrupt. This screen is only for downtime, right?
Yes.
Okay. No.
Yes. Yeah. This is where you would categorize your downtime. Then if you come over here, this is where you would put in scrap or rejects. Again, you would determine what these categories are. You have the power to name them whatever you want. If an operator had a defect and wanted to call it scrap, they could come in here and pick one. And then just enter in, if they had one piece and hit enter, then they've entered a scrap of 1, and it automatically deducts that from the net pieces. So it keeps track of it sort of automatically for you.
Sorry for example, we can customize the categories from the screen, or just is for the file that you are putting there?
These categories, you can't customize them here on the operator screens, but there's another piece of software. It's a configuration program that you can go in, and you could have 20 different sets of down reason for every machine if you wanted to. They're configurable by machine. So yes, you can't do it on the operator screens, but you can configure these to be whatever you want through the configuration program.
Okay, thanks.
The same thing exists for what we call assist. This is a call system. What this does is if it serves as a way, if the operator needs assistance, if they needed to call for a supervisor or called for a material handler, for instance, they could come and push this button. It would send out an alert, to the individual, whoever was tied to that, to let them know that there was something that needed their attention at this specific machine. This particular functionality assist can be tied to other things. Like we have a voice paging system that will tie in with like an overhead page that would send out vocal messages. We also have a email alert system, text message system that would send out those type of alerts based upon these assists.
Luis, is that something that you would utilize, like an alert system, whether it be through email, text, or voice?
Yeah, yeah, so it's gonna be great to have some alert to the.
Yes. And we can alert, I mean, not only on it, I mean, the assist can send out an alert, but we can also send out alerts, like if downtimes, you know, if you go above a downtime percentage, or if your scrap levels get too high, that we can alert on those type of things as well. I'm going to jump over to one of these machines because I want to talk about the process button right here. So the process, that's the screen of process parameters. It's interesting here is this machine is not recording right now. So let's go to one that should be a little bit better than what I was looking at there. Okay, so what you see here, this is the process monitoring part of the system. So for this particular machine, I believe there's 20 or maybe it's 18 or so different process parameters that we have interfaced with our system, whether that's done through direct digital analog signals or through some sort of machine interface where we pull data from the machine controller or PLC itself. We essentially watch each one of these process variables every machine cycle. And then you can apply limits to these. You see the low and high limit. And if something violates a limit, you'll get an alert, which is what's happening here. Like for instance, this VP PPSI, it's a pressure. This is a molding machine, so that's an injection pressure. They have a limit of 15,500, and they're actually running 16,405 now, so they're above a limit, so they're seeing an alert. Same thing with max PPSI, and they're actually the same values, but they're reading it twice. But it's the it gives you an example here of what process monitoring looks like. You can set these limits in your product standards. They can be tool and machine specific. So if you need to, if you run the same part in the same, in two different production lines, you could have two different sets of limits if you needed to. Any questions there before I move on?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay. The other thing we do with the system as well, from a process monitoring standpoint, aside from this process summary, which like I said, these readings come in every time the machine cycles. So in the case of this machine, it's about a 17-second cycle. So you'll get a new reading every 17 seconds. We also do profiling, which basically is it's up to 500 data points within a cycle. This is actually the injection pressure of the machine, from 0 out to 16 seconds, out to 17 seconds where it runs to. So, this is a more real-time profile of a certain process variable. If you needed to watch it, that closely, throughout the whole cycle, we give you the ability to profile up to 4 per machine. In this case, they have a pressure and a position. And you could overlay those as well, so you could see how they interact with each other. That's kind of the other, aside from the process summary, that's the other part of process monitoring. Over here on the production screen, there's some things. One thing I want to talk about first is this is where you will see a breakdown of your OEE, the actual gauges that give you OEE and its components. I'm not sure how familiar you are with OEE, but OEE is essentially made up of 3 different factors: availability, performance, and quality. These 3 factors multiply together to give you your overall equipment effectiveness, your OEE. Availability is a gauge of basically your uptime versus your total available machine time. Quality is your good parts, net pieces over gross pieces. And your performance is basically how close you're running to your standard cycle. Performance is the one gauge that can go over 100% if you run consistently faster than your standard. But you can see these gauges, as this screen refreshes every 20 seconds or whatever, you get a real time look at your OEE for each machine to see what it's doing. There's some other informational things here too. Machine, again, these are kind of on the other pages too. So some product images, some images that you can assign to each product standard so they show up with the job. There's also some buttons along this screen that take you to other places. One being setup sheets, which you can set up links and go in and see, okay, here's a process setup sheet for a certain machine tied to the process variable. You can go back here. And again, in setup sheets, you could have multiples. You're this is within your control. We'll show you how to make the links, and you can link them out to, documents or even video clips. If you wanted to play a video on the operator screen, so you could see that play, you'd be able to link those in right here. A couple other buttons are just system functionality updates. If we needed to change cavitation, you would do that in the update screen, and a few other things, reject multipliers, or if you're doing if you were printing labels with our system, there's a box count modifier here as well. And then there's labor and material fields for this particular customer. They're not turned on, but those give you, labor allows you to track users, basically have operators log into the system, so you can see who's logged in on each machine and keep a historical record of, which users were where and how many hours they operated the machine. It also gives you out, productivity by user then too, gross pieces, net pieces, rejects, uptime, downtime per operator, if you so choose, if you use the labor functionality. Material allows you to track material lots. If you turn that feature on, basically you can have up to a 4-component material, and you can track a lot of each material. So, if you were using a certain batch of, plastic covers, let's say, and you went from one lot to another, you could track that right within the PlantStar system. The material lot tracking would allow you to do that.
So those are extra features, right, Charlie? So if Luis wanted to do the labor or material, those would just be additional features, Luis, just so you know.
Yeah.
They're not like out of the box, if you will.
And then jumping over here, the log screen, that's just a screen that lets you see activity. It's a nice activity log. So on this particular machine over the past, I don't know how many events in here, things like process alarms. If you wanted to see when job changes happened, there aren't any job changes here. When your shift changes happen, that sort of thing. This particular plant doesn't signify any shifts, so they're not in there. But here's your down events. You can see when machines went up and down, that sort of thing. It's just and this is real time again. All of this stuff is there for you to see as it happens. So it's all data that's at your fingertips through the operator screen. We do have the ability to do label printing with PlantStar. If label printing is something you would be interested in, that would probably be something we need to talk about and maybe do a little separate demo of. Our data collection modules have a software built into them that will interface with like network ready Zebra printers or thermal transfer printers. And you can set up and design your own labels, and then they'll basically print them on demand as they're needed. I'm not sure if that's something that you'd be interested in, but it's definitely something we could talk about more if you like.
Thanks. Yeah, we can talk about. We print some labels in another station, but maybe we can include that at the system. So.
Okay. So that's basically covering, very quickly the operator side of PlantStar. And that's just basically what the operator has to do in order to get all the data into to the PlantStar system to make it useful to you, to make it work. I'm going to jump over now to the part of the Panorama system is the monitor client. Now this is a Windows client. This would run on a computer, on a Windows-based computer. It's called the monitor client. But what it gives you is a much broader shop floor overview. It gives you a view of all your machines. It gives you a view of your machine schedule, which I have open right now. It gives you can look at historical run, you can look back at previous jobs and see how they've run. You can look things up like that. I'm going to hit and miss through this. I'm going to, there's a lot here. I'll show you some key features and kind of go through some things pretty fast. One of the things you will see is the machine status, which is very much so, like what we saw out here. And beware, these are two different plants, two different companies, so these are not the same. These are not the same location. So I'm kind of showing you two different things, but the layout is the same, or the concepts are all the same. The machine status screen in the Panorama monitor gives you a little bit more information, though. It gives you the color codes and the real-time status of each machine, but it also gives you, what machine it is, what particular product you're running right now, and a summary of your your net pieces and rejects for the shift. And then you can also then each one of these on this particular screen, each one of these blocks, depending on what the machine status is, will vault you right into a quick link to another screen. Like if I go to one that's running fast, it brings me over to the job summary. So I can see, for the current shift and the past, however many shifts this job ran. Here's my net pieces, my parts per minute, my total rejects, percent reject, production efficiency, uptime, and average cycle. So this is, again, where you can go through all your machines and take a look at this data individually. Like that. Now, if I click on a machine that's down, that was one I clicked on, one that was running. If I click on one that's down, it takes me to a different screen. It takes me to the down Pareto Pi screen. So basically it's saying, okay, what have I been down for? So and this is a bar graph. This particular one's a bar graph that says, well, I've had 1.32 hours of maintenance. Let me take this. 0.13 hours of not scheduled, 0.03 hours unauthorized, so on and so forth. So, and now this is, again, this is for the job so far. If I wanted to see the downtime just for the current shift, I could drill to that. So their downtime's been not scheduled, which this actually means probably no operators, so they didn't schedule this to run. And again, you can go through you can go back through his history. You don't have to just look at the current jobs. You could go back and look at jobs that have previously run if you want to take a look at that data. Now, the reason why I start with this jobs or this machine status screen is because it does have that nice feature to jump to other screens. But all those places I've gone are also available in these menu items, these drop downs you can select. Like, we were looking at the job summary for a running machine. It's the same, that sort of thing. It was just linking you into that. Or we were looking at the down Pareto pie charts when we went to a down machine, that sort of thing. But there are 3 different menus of choices here broken down by basically 3 categories. Monitor is looking at your currently running, basically looking at the status of your shop floor as it is right now. So I can look at things like, for instance, here, if you did use the labor functionality, I could look at labor status, which would show you who was logged in on what machine, basically who was running on each machine. It's going to take a minute to open here. This is a pretty sizable factory, and plus I'm working across the VPN, so it's a little bit slow. But once it does open up, we'll see it. It's a little slower than I thought it would be. There we go. So, and in this particular one here, I don't know how much they're using labor anymore, but like we could go back to the previous shift. If you were, it would show you all the machines, the employee name, what category they were under, when they logged in, when they logged out, how many hours they were there, what their downtime, their net pieces, You can see across there that would, if you use the labor functionality, it would tell you all of that data. Things like exception summaries. Again, this is basically telling you what status your machine's in. Well, it's down right now, but it might also be in an overrun state or something like that. Like for instance, this machine right here is. It's running fast, but it's also gone over its pieces required. So this would tell you that real time. And if you left this up, you'd see these change as things changed on the floor. There's several screens in here, or 2 or 3 screens that give you things, production summaries. And this is just a machine by machine breakdown of, machine, product, tool, net pieces, standard rate, actual rate, production performance, pieces to go, % reject, just standard production data that will, but this does refresh real time. This reflects exactly what your shop floor looks like right now, and it, will change as things change. There's a screen in here that looks very similar called machine performance, which gives you your % reject, flow cycle, and your OEE data is here, like we saw on the operator screens. This is where you would see your OEE percentage in the client, in the monitor client. If you were using, the material, if you had the material enabled, this is where you go see it would show you what materials are running on each machine. Material usage, again, they have material names here and calculated usages, so it will show you that. If you had the subcomponents enabled in your system under each one of these machines, you may see up to 4 subcomponents and their materials and usages. So we calculate material usages for you as well. And again, I'm moving pretty fast. If there's anything you want to see again or want me to slow down, I will. But it's all pretty standard production reporting stuff that you would want to see from your production floor. The one thing I do want to kind of get down to is the process monitoring stuff. We can look again. Here's a process summary. Again, much like we saw over here, in this process summary, the same type of things in the monitor client. Now, this is a different machine, and this particular machine I picked, they don't have limits on right now. But the one thing that the monitor client allows you to do is kind of drill into each process variable independently and look a little deeper. For instance, if I wanted to look at the fill time here, I could double click on that, and it's going to bring up a trend chart of up to the last 1,000 fill readings. Now they're nice and consistent here. It's a nice flat blue line, so that probably wasn't the best example to use. If I use something like the pressure shift to hold here, more of a pressure there, you'll see something that looks a little more real because it is changing slightly from cycle to cycle. But you can do this with each individual process variables. Come in here and see where what your data variation is. If you had limits, those would show up as lines on here as to where your limits are at. This is the actual cycle by cycle trend. You see me clicking on the chart here, you'll see what the data is. We can also see it in form of an X bar R chart. So you have your X bar on the top and your range on the bottom. So this is more of an SPC chart here, to basically tell you if your process is in control or not. And you can pull up the summary data here, which will give you your upper control limits if they were in there, what your standard deviation is, all that sort of thing amongst the process variable data points that you were seeing. And again, I could do that for any one of these, just by double clicking on them, drills into that screen. And there's another one that's a flat line. And then we allow you to overlay. So if you wanted to look at, cushion position, over top of your transfer position, you can plot them out on the same chart to see comparisons of the two. You can also come in here and see the overlay profile data too with process monitoring. So if that same profile I showed you on the operator screen, we can look at that. We can look at that here on the monitor client as well. A little bit nicer view here. We can overlay the profiles. We can recall and save them here. If you wanted to snapshot a profile to bring it up for later viewing, you can do that sort of thing. All available here through the overlay profile option. One of the things I wanted to kind of spend a couple minutes with was the overall scheduling feature of the system. So, kind of what we've talked about so far has all been like, okay, here's the data we're collecting right now. Here's I showed you all of the production summary screens and job summary screens where we give you that nice overview of your status, your level of rejects, your level of good parts made. One of the features of PlantStar we also have too is this job scheduler that basically lets you lay out your jobs by machine in a graphical format, just as this. Now you had mentioned you don't currently utilize an ERP and you're just kind of handling scheduling and creating jobs manually. You can do that within PlantStar. It's not a problem to do. You basically create work orders, which are what's down here in this list. So you do that by creating first product standards. Now, a product standard is kind of like a bill of materials. It's a master, an item master, if you will. Here's a certain part we make, and here's all the specific things about it: the cycle time, the weight of the part, or something like that. It's all in there. So once you have these product standards in PlantStar, it would look something like this. Not really relevant to what you would see, but then you can come in and you can create work orders based upon those product standards. So I have to run, a job. I have to make 1,000 of these particular parts based upon this product standard. We'd pull up the work order creation screen. You can load a standard, go in and search for a standard, find which one you need, bring it up, and then kind of fill in the blanks. Okay, what's my job name, for this one? How many pieces do I need? This is a standard value, but maybe it's 1,200, that sort of thing. And then you would save that, and it would appear down here in this work order list. And then you can just click and drag it up into the job schedule board somewhere. So that's how you would, in a very quick demonstration, that's how you would build out this job schedule board, starting from basically on the left is the currently running jobs, and then as you move to the right, you have your queue jobs. Now, what I did there, I did all that, but I haven't actually, until I come up here and click this button, I won't commit my changes. So it does allow you to kind of play with the schedule to see what I dropped this job on this machine and it went red. So that means it's not gonna finish by its required by date. So I could then, pull it up ahead of this guy. No, it won't let me do that. Hang on, sorry. Not exactly sure what it's doing to me there. Let's get it back off the schedule. It's because it had an anchor position. That's yeah. Sorry, that was my bad. Okay. I don't want to mess around too much because they may be doing some scheduling changes on their end, but you can kind of see here that you can mix and match and kind of move things around in your schedule to see then, if you're going to finish things on time, if they're going to be late. I can open up any one of these jobs and come in here and look at that information. So this particular job, it's required by November 23rd. It's estimated based upon if the job in front of it finishes when we think it should, it's estimated to end on November 4th. So it's plenty early, no big deal. It's 18 days early. But if I come down here and look at this job, the red one I clicked on, it was required by November 6th, but it's not actually going to end until the 18th. So it's late. So we're giving you that red notification to tell you that that job is not going to finish by the required by date. Hours and minutes to completion come in here too. You see the 2307, 80 hours and 45 minutes estimated to complete. And for the current jobs, that will continuously update based upon the cycle time of the machine and the uptime and the downtime. We will continuously refresh that expected completion, so you get a very real-time status of when things are going to finish. Any questions so far? I know I've been kind of flying here, but if there's anything, just stop me.
Luis, is there anything that you would like to see that you haven't, or any questions on anything that you have seen?
No, just one doubt. All this data can be exported to Excel or something. For example, the graph can be exported to Excel or.
Certainly, yeah, you can. Yeah, like we have standard utilities built in that will like an end of shift or an end of job or even an on-demand export. So if you wanted to export all your production numbers out, maybe to pull them into ERP, you could do that. Certainly, that's standard features of the system. The other thing we can do along those lines is, I talked about building this schedule manually. If somewhere down the line you do start using an ERP system and you build your schedule in the ERP, we can also import that schedule into PlantStar. So you wouldn't have to do all this manual creation of jobs. We could import it from ERP if we needed to. David, I don't know. I've kind of covered everything pretty quickly. I don't know if you need a little more time here before our hour's up, but I think I kind of gave a good overview.
Yeah, no, thank you, Charlie, for the presentation. Luis, what other questions come to mind, or what else would you like to see, if anything?
No, David, from my side, I have no more questions.
Okay. What would be the next steps for you? Is this something that you would like to pursue, and potentially for us to put some sort of statement of work together or a budget proposal, or are you not ready for that yet?
Yeah, I would like to for the buyer proposal. So,
Okay.
And I don't know if you can quoting, and I don't know if the quoting or the system the system is including some support or something. Well, maybe it can be discussed later, but just if you can quote it, it will be great in order to pursue it with the buyer.
Yeah, I think your question was, how do we support? So we do have a software license and a maintenance agreement that we provide 24/7 support. It also has warranty for all your hardware. It also will repair any bugs or fixes that we do with other customers to automatically do with your current system. So yes, we do have that. In my opinion, Charlie, we should probably spend the last 10 minutes that we have asking Luis any questions in order to put something together budgetary for him.
Sure. Yeah, I do have a few. So, I guess in order to quote and we can, I can ask questions, or maybe Luis could provide us with some, but a little more detail of, kind of exactly what your assembly lines look like. What are the stations in each individual line? There's a, is it just like 6 or 7 assembly stations, or is there some inspection going on in there too, in between stations? That I'll kind of need to know. If it's one piece flow through, where are we going to count? We're usually at the end, is where, when the piece comes off the end of the line, it's a good piece. So that's where you're going to count from, that sort of thing. And I know that might be kind of hard to explain over the phone. I don't know if there's some kind of like shop floor diagram you could provide or something, or just some breakdowns of what your assembly lines are. So I knew a little bit more what they look like.
Sorry, I was lost. What was the question?
Do you have any kind of like layouts or drawings of your lines and the different stations in the lines and
Yeah,
what they do? Just so that would help me quote out the system a little better.
yeah. I can share with you the layout for the lines.
Okay. Okay. And
Perfect.
you have David Crowley's contact information, correct? You can just provide that information to him and he'll make sure that I get it.
Okay, for sure. I can share with David.
Yeah, I think I'll take a look at that, David. And then I think really I'll probably have a few more questions for Luis. So and I can then email him back directly, and we can get to the point for a quote. If I have a few more questions I need on some things, then we'll just handle it that way.
What about like in terms of HMIs, Charlie? So, Luis, I'm assuming that you would like a touchscreen device for each operator. So we do. I don't know if you can see my screen, but we have some options that we provide. We actually produce these HMIs. Is that something you want us to include?
Yes, for sure. If you can include, but let me check with the engineering team.
Okay.
And,
And that's some of the things too that will shake out once I see some layouts of their lines.
Perfect.
They may want to have multiple HMIs in a line. There may be 2 or 3 different points where they have to be able to enter scrap or enter downtime or something like that. And those once I get a look at the layouts, then I can kind of go back to I can basically make a recommendation to what I think you need, and then we can go from there.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. I didn't know if you were able to do that by just looking at the layout, so that's great.
Yeah, well, it'll at least give me some place to start. I may have to ask Luis a few more questions, but it'll give me a good starting point.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Charlie, any other questions?
No, not at this point. I'm sure I'll have some more.
Any PLC control questions, or is that?
Let me. I'm hoping in the layouts that he lists out the equipment that's in the line, like a brief. Is this a motor winder, or is this some sort of press or something like that? If you can give me some information about what each station is, then I can come back and ask those questions. Because it really be before like PLC controls is like what type of process variables are we looking to monitor? Are we looking to monitor like the amount of time it takes something to run, or like the pressure it takes for on a press device, or a temperature on some sort of ultrasonic welder or something like that. Without knowing the lines, it's really kind of hard to ask those questions.
Okay, Luis, would that be included in the shop layout? Most likely.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. We can include that.
Okay. And where are you located? I don't think I asked that question. I should have.
Where is located? We are located in Coahuila, Mexico.
Okay.
Saltillo. Is the city that we are located.
Okay. Perfect. Well, we do. If you see my screen, we've been in business for almost 50 years, and we have customers all over North America. So Mexico is not a problem at all for us. We actually have a rep out in Mexico as well that I work a lot with. That if we do go down the road, I would definitely introduce you to him.
Okay. I'm see. Can you share me that presentation in order to send to the buyer and engineering team and explain better?
Yeah. Do you want me to send you the presentation?
Yeah, please.
Okay. What I'll do, Luis, is I actually recorded this call, so I'll send you the recording from our call today, and I'll also send you the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it's help.
Perfect. Okay, and then whenever you get a chance, you have my email contact. You can just email me the shop floor layout.
Okay, for sure.
All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
All right,
All right,
Charlie.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a
Yep.
nice
Bye-bye.
Bye.